Let's talk, of course, to Martin Gower, former NHS chair. We're getting closer and closer now to July the 25th, which is the date at which the junior doctors are going to go on strike for 5, count them, days, ruining, at the very minimum, 200,000 operations and procedures in the NHS. Before we speak to Martin, let me just play you this, Martin, from resident doctor, I call her a junior doctor, actually, Basha Mukherjee. This was yesterday.
Well, for my records, I'm actually going to be, I'm going to stop being a resident doctor by the end of the month. So these strikes won't really affect me. I'm actually not even going to be striking because
But you voted to strike, though, it says here.
I voted for striking, yes.
But you're not going to strike.
My reasons are different to just the numbers per se. My reasons are that the NHS continues to be a very chronically understaffed environment, and we need to make it lucrative and incentivized for doctors to stay in the NHS, to come into the NHS.
But you're not going to stay in it?
Well, I'm considering my options because even the pays for GPs, salaried GPs, is not great at the moment, and there are better options across the world. I could be doing the same job anywhere else in the world.
Okay, well then why not do that then instead of causing problems here? I'm slightly puzzled as to why you're no longer going to be a junior doctor, but you voted to strike as one. Yeah, I mean, that was a rather bizarre point that she made. Martin Gower's here. Martin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
So,
here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem as though many of the people who are voting to strike as junior doctors, one, are not actually junior doctors, and two, seem to be more about just disrupting than actually improving the system. Because, you know, Wes Streeting said quite openly, we haven't got the money. He thinks it's very, very bad news that they're trying to disrupt the NHS at a time when it's hanging by a thread, his words. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I suspect that, I mean, the government that we have isn't actually renowned for its negotiating skills.
No.
So I rather suspect that what will happen, there will be some sort of compromise cobbled together. I understand that Wes Streeting is looking at the possibility of reducing the NHS's contribution to pensions. Now, it is at a ludicrous level anyway, but I think for the junior doctors, there may be, he's looking at some kind of deal that would reduce their pension contributions in the short term, but would actually give them more pay that they want. I mean, look, the BMA is really quite a nasty, pernicious organisation, in my opinion. It is.
And I see that Robert Winston has just announced that he's quit it because of their dangerous strike.
And I think because of his profile, he's quite able to be quite public about that. But I believe there are quite a few doctors now who are no longer members of the BMA. I mean, I think they've shamed the profession, to be honest. And when I see these giggling, laughing, presumably junior doctors on picket lines,
yeah,
it all seems they're out for a bit of a jolly. I mean, the pictures are showing at the moment are symptomatic of that. I just think that we have a weak government in terms of resisting union pressure. I think they see the opportunity to take advantage of that. And of course, it goes back to the fact that as a massive employer, let's be honest, a nationalized industry, you've got the situation where the union has enormous power and is quite prepared to wield it without any regard whatever to the impact that that has on patients.
No, exactly. What do you make of this story in the Telegraph today, which says that Wes Streeting's opened the door to cutting junior doctors' pension pots in order to raise their pay? Because one of the things they never mention, they always bang on about how much they get paid an hour because they make it sound worse than it actually is, but they never mention the massive pension that they've got.
No, and the contributions that the NHS has to make out of the us taxpayers' contributions to the NHS are absolutely massive if you compare them to the private sector. I mean, these are pensions based on what you were earning when you left the service and the number of years in the service. So it's based on a final salary, as we used to call them, final salary schemes. Some of us who are a little bit older are lucky enough to have had that from previous private sector employers. Yeah. But these days, they're just simply not doing that. And I think that this is not only in the NHS, but throughout the public sector. The cost of public sector pension contributions that we all have to pay through our tax system is absolutely crazy. And it needs somebody with the guts and the power and the ability to use that power to stop it.
Yeah.
but this could be a route. But the BMA are going to resist it, Mike. You know, they're going to say, "Oh no, 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 our pension. This is why people join the service. We're not prepared to negotiate at
Yeah.
all on pensions." And there's very little that anybody can do. If the government are not going to pass a law that makes it an essential service, that therefore people can't go on strike like the police or the army, they're not going to do that. And so I think we're just going to see this as a sort of annual effort, certainly for the next few years, to grab whatever they can.
Yeah, right. Because whatever happens, whenever the standoff begins, you know, the junior doctors seem to be saying, you know, if West Streeting will simply offer us what we want, then we won't go on strike. But he's not going to do that. So there will be an impasse at some point. There will be frustration. There will be people whose appointments are cancelled, whose entire lives have been put on hold, not just for 1 week, but for probably 2 months or maybe 3 months afterwards as well. And so, you know, and the public don't have any sympathy for them. You know, they didn't have much sympathy for them last time. This time, it's completely evaporated.
Well, at the moment, West Streeting is saying he's going to resist it, but only time will tell. This government's resistance to union pressure over the past year has not been that particularly great. We look at the train drivers, we look at the civil service, quite a lot of other public sector workers. They've been pretty happy just to give in, largely give in. They had a 25% increase over 2 years. And what is actually quite wrong, Mike, is that they use the RPI, a measure of inflation, to say how much they need, rather than CPI, which is what everyone else uses. Right. And that, of course, if you look back to 2015 or wherever, you'll see that they haven't lost the level of pay that they say they have. So I just think that they're very, very powerful. There's not a lot we can do. We have a structure of our healthcare system that no other countries have. This doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. And consequently, they can see they are very, very powerful.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely shocking what they're doing, though. People are absolutely livid about it.